if you're expecting to hear a lot of blood and thunder from me, you're going to be disappointed. I was involved in another phase which got essentially zero publicity. I was in a radio intelligence company. Our mission was to listen in on what the Germans were saying over their radios, and if it was of any importance, report it to our headquarters. The company was formed about 3 or 4 months before the Normandy invasion, and it was made up of a hodgepodge of people. I was in a field artillery outfit, and I got called into the first sergeant's office one morning, and he says, "Pack your gear, Murray, you're leaving the outfit." And my reaction was, "Well, what did I do to deserve this?" And I asked him what was going on, and he didn't know. All he had was a piece of paper saying he wanted the best Morse code radio operator in the outfit to report someplace else. So I packed up and I went over into an area. There was just 3 or 4 Quonset huts and an MP at the gate, chain link fence all around it, almost like a prison. And they let us in. I reported, tried to find out what was going on, and nobody knew. And 3 or 4 days later, these barracks were all filled up, and they finally told us they were forming some radio intelligence units to snoop in on what the Germans were talking about. Our mission was slightly different than most of them, though. The big difference being that the ones they were forming was something I think they picked up from the British. It was the low-level communication down among the troops who were actually doing the fighting. They wanted to know what they were saying. Well, anyway, after we got organized into companies, and I began to see the handwriting on the wall at this point. I could see myself sitting with a pair of earphones on 8-10 hours a day, and that didn't really appeal to me. So I pointed out to the first sergeant of my new company that I'd been to radio repair school, and did they have a slot for a radio maintenance man in this organization? He said he didn't know. He hadn't even seen a table of organization yet. And that gives you some concept of just how suddenly they formed these companies. There were 3 of it, 3 companies formed. And so he says, well, if there's anything on the table of organization that says anything about radio maintenance, you're it then. Turned out there was, and I didn't have to wear the earphones 8-10 hours a day. So the next step, of course, was getting prepared for the Normandy invasion. We started waterproofing all the vehicles, and that's a messy job, but we got it done. And then we started taking care of ourselves. We found a new use for condoms. It's a wonderful thing to waterproof your billfold, a couple of packs of cigarettes, a candy bar, anything like that, the pictures of your wife or girlfriend, they fit very nicely into those. And if you have to go through the water and getting to the beach, why, they stay dry. So there was a tremendous run of condoms getting ready for the invasion. So anyway, we all packed up like we were going to have to practically swim into the beach. And when I went in the beach on D+1, I barely got the tires on the vehicle I was in wet. He drove that what do you call it? LCVP, landing craft vehicle and personnel. They drove it right up the beach, dropped the ramp, and I rolled off into the dry sand. So it was a very nice, easy landing for us. They had, by that time, secured enough territory so there weren't too many shells coming down around the beach area. We were delayed coming in 4 or 5 hours just because of confusion of trying to get into the beach. And so we spent that time just cruising up and down, watching what was going on the shore. And it didn't look that pretty to me at that time. They were still shelling the beach, and they eventually got tired of that or got pushed back. I don't know which. But we got on shore with no incident. I was part of an advance party. There's 7 of us that went in, and our purpose was to find out where we were going to set up our first base of operations and locate the division that we were going to support, where their headquarters was, and also the the command that the Army command they had set up on shore. So all of that went pretty smoothly, and the rest of the unit came in the next day, and we were down at the beach to meet them and take them out to where they were to set up. So all that went pretty smoothly. So that's about all there was as far as the landing itself was concerned. Our first objective after setting up operations was to move down towards the port of Cherbourg, which the Allies wanted primarily as a place to land supplies. The problem with this was, though, that when we got down there and finally got Cherbourg liberated, it was torn up so bad that they couldn't use it. The whole beach area was just so bombed, shelled, and destroyed by the Germans before they left that it was a totally unusable port. So that was sort of a wasted effort. Some of the other places that we hit on our way across France, the first place was a concentration camp at Nordhausen. At Nordhausen, the Germans had established a underground factory for their V-1 and V-2 missiles to evade our bombing of their facilities that were above ground. Most of the people working in this were draftees from other concentration camps. They came down, they set up a camp there. Well, when we got there, about 24 hours after they'd cleared out, a lot of these people had died of starvation in those 24 hours. And the one thing that has never been mentioned that I heard about with concentration camps is the smell. The smell of human waste, rotting flesh, everything else. They're just unbelievable. It's more than a lot of people really could stand without losing their dinner. And every time I think of it, I get that smell in my nose again. And the next big deal was the Battle of the Bulge. And I didn't get cut off inside the bulge with the paratroopers that were in there. I was on the outside, just about directly west of the town itself. But the weather we had was the same kind of weather they had. We're sleeping in foxholes that were dug in the snow, and we had one blanket, overcoat, and half a pup tent to keep ourselves warm with at night. And that isn't very pleasant, I'll tell you for sure. It was like that just about the whole time. It wasn't until the weather began to clear up that we were able to do anything about liberating that camp.